Florida lawmakers recently approved a leaner state budget compared to last year. This one totals more than $115 billion. It includes a $1.3 billion tax cut package. The governor now has until July 1st to consider that budget. Joining me now for a closer look, our Florida Gulf Coast University political science professor, Dr. Sandra Pavelka, and WGCU host and reporter John Davis. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
So the state legislature passed this budget 45 days after the scheduled end of session. What was the delay?
Well, there were some discrepancies in the budget and priorities from the governor and the legislature. The governor was seeking for a reduction in the property taxes, and the House and the Senate were disputing a decrease in the state sales tax from 6% to 5.25%.
So I know that Speaker Daniel Perez didn't get his permanent sales tax reduction, but some tax cuts did make it in. John, what essentially did they agree on?
So there was a $1.3 billion tax cut package that was approved. One of the most significant things I thought, because this largely benefits businesses overall, was they eliminated Florida's business rent tax. This was a 2% tax that businesses would pay on any property that they rented in the state of Florida. This is going to save a collective $1.6 billion on businesses that operate out of Florida and rent properties. That's a huge deal. And Florida was truly an outlier for even having this in the first place. No other state in the country has anything like this.
So how does this proposed budget compare to last year?
There is a reduction in I think it's about 1.5 billion in money from this year to last year in terms of a reduction. So that's a pretty significant chunk.
That being said, I don't think it was unexpected. Lawmakers went into this session knowing they were going to have to do some belt tightening, and this is largely because we're not going to have the budget propped up by federal economic stimulus dollars or COVID relief money as we have in recent years past.
So the budget now goes to the governor's desk. Any idea what we can expect at this point?
Well, we have a fiscal year that starts July 1st. So normally the governor will have 15 days once it's presented to him, but in this case, time's ticking, so he has until July 1st to actually sign the budget. And he has what's called a line item veto. Many states don't have that power, but our state and the governor does. So the governor can actually go in and line item with his red pen, whichever items that he does not want within the budget. Or of course he can veto the entire budget, but that doesn't normally happen. And then the legislature has to go back into session and vote upon it by 2/3 vote. But the line item veto is really an incredible power for the governor to have, where he can go in and kind of red pen those turkeys, so to speak.
Yeah, speaking of which, almost immediately after the budget was announced, Florida Tax Watch, this nonpartisan, sort of budget watchdog group, identified 242 so-called budget turkeys they want DeSantis to look into. So these are some 1,600 local projects lawmakers have put into the spending plan, and there's about $2 billion there in those individual projects that would specifically benefit their constituents. So I think we'll all be looking closely to see what survives DeSantis's veto pen.
So want to switch gears here to this whole discussion about the governor's idea to reduce or eliminate property taxes. What happened to that idea, that proposal?
Well, so that tax deal was put on hold, and the legislature instructed their Office of Economic and Demographic Research to study property taxes in Florida and to present some type of report to them by the beginning of November of this year, so that will be, they can review it and then, of course, hold committee meetings in the spring in the fall and the spring to discuss it. So it's still, I guess, on the table, so to speak, but it's being researched for probably next session.
This is really the prudent action to take. DeSantis has been going around the state saying we need to cut or eliminate property taxes. And people have been saying, what's your plan? Show us the work. How would the funding, or how would the projects that are funded by property taxes, and bear in mind, this is all hyper-local things like public schools, roadway infrastructure. Who's going to respond when you call 911? All of these things are vital services paid for by property taxes. So cutting or eliminating them without studying the feasibility first would really be reckless.
Yeah, huge implications there. I want to switch now to this idea that essentially voters will now, in Lee County, will now go to the ballot to decide how county commissioners are elected. Explain.
So currently we have an at-large system where every registered voter in the county gets to have a say in every county commission race. If they approve this change, then only voters who live within a district would get to vote on who that representative is.
And you think this could have have impacted previous elections, right?
Absolutely. We had an example in 2024 where Mike Greenwell, the sitting representative for District 5, was actually running against Amanda Cochran out in Alva. And while Greenwell won the district, he actually lost the area that he represents, so to speak, in Alva. Under the overall numbers, he won 65% to 45%.
Interesting.
And I would add Matt Caldwell, the county's current property appraiser, a former state lawmaker. He's been fighting for this change for more than 2 decades. He has called it, quote, fruit of the poisonous tree, because this is really a holdover of Jim Crow era policies designed to keep minorities, racial and political, out of public office. So we could actually see a change, because in Lee County, there has not been a non-Republican on the county commission in more than 40 years.
Oh my goodness.
And this is very similar to congressional districts, how we have congressional districts set up. But this would also apply to school districts and to county commissioners, and it would go to the voters in November of 2026.
But it wouldn't take effect until 2028, so we're not going to see any immediate change.
Got it. The legislature also pushing to put aside some money for emergencies. Explain what that is.
Yeah, they're stashing away $750 million into the state budget stabilization fund, and that's something that the state can tap into in case of emergencies. There's also going to be a constitutional amendment on next fall's ballot, 2026, to basically require the state to put aside roughly that same amount of money each year. What's interesting about this is a direct response to Trump administration policies, a slowing labor market, uncertainty about the economy because of tariffs and other issues. And it's just interesting that the Florida legislature is taking this prudent move without actually acknowledging the reason for it or calling out the White House.
Dr. Pavelka, John Davis, thank you so much for your time, and we'll have to have you back once the governor signs the budget and learn from you about what those changes are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. We've got more great content for you, from news to the arts to the environment. So be sure to like and subscribe to WGCU's YouTube channel and follow us on our social media platforms for the stories that matter to you.